I heard so many people just have, passing by say, oh, I just left a really great workshop. So thank you, workshop presenters, and thank you everyone for being here. I mentioned on day one, those of you who are here in the room, that the culture of AE is created because of the people here. And so thank you for making this an awesome 3 days. I love hanging out with you all. I want to give another shout out. This might happen more than once today, but I want to give another shout out to our sponsors who have helped make this possible. Let's give them a huge round of applause. We really appreciate you. The other thing about AE, and you probably, if you're a new person, if you just got here, if you're a first timer, you figured this out by now, we really do like reflection. And the reason why is because that's how learning sticks, right? That's how we get learning to actually come from just like in our head to move it into our body so that we can, move forward with whatever's next. So we're going to do just a little reflection for a moment. So I want you to write down or think in your head, if you don't have pen and paper. If you have paper, you can pull it out. I hesitate to say you can pull up the notes app on your phone, but you might be distracted. So here's the question. What is one learning you've had so far at the conference? That's it. So take a moment and write down one learning you've had so far, something you want to take back with you, back to your work as an experiential educator. All right, next step, I'd love to invite you to stand up, find a partner, have a quick conversation, share that learning with your partner. This is, another good time of many so far to meet someone new, or you can talk to someone you've known for a long time. Both are cool. And just chat for a minute, share what is one thing you've learned, and then, if you might remember from day one, I'm going to do that hand raise thing and say, come on back. And when you hear me or see me, raise your hand, finish your sentence, but not your whole paragraph, and look this way. But actually, you can, if you're standing, you can just stand there, because I'm just going to give you one more set of directions that'll involve your same partner. You with me? Okay, cool. All right, quick chat with your partner. Thank you. All right, quick show of hands. Where are my first timers? Yes, I love you all. Okay, just keep your hand kind of raised for a moment, because here's what everyone else is going to do, is you are going to group up with some first timers, a little clump, 3, 4, 5 people, whatever, have a chat, just find out what they learned, and then in that conversation, turn that into a, you might be an experiential educator if, based on what they learned as an experiential, you know. You good? All right, we're giving about 3 minutes for this. Go. few experiential educators that I know. I just know a couple of them. And I said, ask them, like, what would you say what is the phrase? You might be an experiential educator if, one of the responses was, you ask someone how they're doing, and they don't respond with a fist of five, and you're very confused. I think that was from Joe Ellen. So I'd love to hear what you came up with. Let's hear from a few folks. You might be an experiential educator if, what you got? Raise your hand. Nice and loud. That's so fitting. We'll go.
If you say, I need to remember to bring more adventure inside, but then you also say, and I need to remember to take more meetings outside.
Love it. This is when you do the rubber chicken soup. Who else has one? You have one? You want to share? You want to stand up? Okay, we can come back to you if you want.
You might be an experiential educator and say, we agree.
Who else? Why is he? Oh.
Okay. You might be an experiential educator if you found your people here.
Oh, I love it. Who else? We'll go one and then two and then three.
You might be an experiential educator in your leadership.
If you have a puppy jacket, you're wrong. Nice. Oh, I thought someone back there. All right, right here, Jamie. That happened to me. Does she want to share? Okay. You want to share?
You might be an experiential educator if the outdoors is your classroom.
Yeah. All right, love it. Thanks, y'all. Sorry, did I miss any last ones? Okay, right here, Robin, and then.
You might be an experiential educator if you won't let your kids play with some of your work toys.
That's right. You keep us separate. Yep. Oh, that's great. All right. I would like to welcome up to the stage our amazing Executive Director, Sherry Bagley. Right here.
Hello, everyone. Whew. Been a good 3 days. I would like to stay in this bubble of kindness and joy, but we have a lot of folks at home that are waiting for us, and we have a lot of work to do out there. So hopefully we can keep this feeling, this spirit, this love that we have going, and spread it all over all the places we're going back home to. These conferences take a lot of work, a lot. So we have some thank yous. First off, I'd like to thank the board of directors. They've been here since last Sunday, so almost a full week now, working on a lot of things, coming up with a strategic plan. So thank you, board. Our Symposium of Experiential Education Research Coordinators, I don't know if they're in here, but they do a lot of work throughout the year to make that event happen. Thank you to all of you. Our exhibitors who came out and showed off what they had to offer and have been talking and having great conversations in our exhibit hall. Our sponsors, as Amy mentioned. We have a host committee. If you don't know this, you can join the host committee for next year's conference in Pittsburgh. The host committee gets to decide on the socials, they get to help out with the keynotes, all kinds of fun stuff. So if you're interested in being on the host committee, let me know. But also, we'd like to thank our host committee for this year. So, host committee, thank you very much. Our awards committee, our scholarship committee, our education committee, our pre-con committees. See, I'm telling you, there's a lot of people that work on this conference. So thanks to all of our committees that have been working for months and months to make this all happen. Our service crew members, I see a lot of our lime green lanyards out here. Thank you all. To Anna Miano and Callie Almond. Anna and Callie are essential in making this whole operation run. And thank you all. Thank each and every one of you for being here in this space. It's really important that we gather every year and have this opportunity to share our knowledge and our information. And lastly, I want to thank Amy Clymer, our MC. No, you can stay up there. You can stay up there. So we had a bit of an overlap with our affinity groups that say they're supposed to start, they're going to start at 5 and this lasts till 5:30. So if you want to go join your affinity group at 5, that's fine. Just know that some people might be trickling in after this is over. No worries. Oh, done at 5, yeah. Sorry.
Okay, thank you, Sherry. Appreciate it. Sorry about the snafu. It's all good. Maybe I should say we'll be done at 5-ish. Okay, so you'll have time to go to your affinity groups. All right, so the big part of the end of AAE is the Ewald and Hahn Address. And I want to tell you a little bit about the Ewald and Hahn Address. The address is presented annually by a person designated by the Board of Directors who has contributed to the development and advancement of experiential education with the tenacity and conviction exemplified by Marina Ewald and Hahn. Hahn was a key figure in the development of experiential education. His personal experiences led him to make helping young people develop into healthy, happy, ethical, and compassionate adults his life's calling. To that end, Hahn found numerous colleges and programs dedicated to educating the whole person, including some programs that are here, like United World College and Outward Bound, and probably others. Marina Ewald was Hahn's partner in planning the Salem School and was the director for many years. In 1925, Ewald initiated the school's first sailing expedition, after which she advocated for their usefulness as an outdoor learning model and incorporated expeditions into the curriculum. She was instrumental in the inception of the Outward Bound expeditionary model. There's several pieces of criteria for selection. The first is they need to have at least 15 years of service and experience in the field of experiential education. They need to be influential in the field, to demonstrate compassion and spiritual integrity, a highly regarded, reputable thinker and worker, an entertaining and inspiring speaker, and embodies attributes that Marina Ewald and Hahn highly regarded. These include craft, innovation, tenacity, service, spirit, curiosity, adventureness, compassion, enterprising, and physical, intellectual, and spiritual vigor. That is a long list. So part of this address is that each year someone close to the person who's going to be giving the address introduces them. So this year, Lisa Swanson is going to introduce our speaker. Lisa has been a member of AE since 2001. She's a clinical psychology doctoral student at Gallaudet University, which is the only university for deaf students in the world. It's in Washington, D.C. And she has a strong adventure therapy background and is a strong experiential educator. Please welcome to the stage, Lisa Swanson.
Hi, everyone. Whew. I was told yesterday, as I landed to Colorado, that said, hey, great you're here. By the way, you're going to do the introduction for G. I was like, oh, okay. So I wasn't really prepared for this. If you could put up the next slide, there's going to be a QR code coming up above my head. There it is. If you could please use your phone while I'm presenting to take a picture of this, but listen to me at the same time, because we're going to be using this during our presentation. You're hearing somebody voicing while I'm signing. This is access. AEE has improved with the access that they've provided. There are about 12 deaf participants that have come to the conference this year. We have continued to expand because of this, and we appreciate AEE's support for providing accessible services to us to be able to participate in the conference. So now let's talk about Jean Berube. She's inspiring. I mean, if I actually was using my voice and not signing, I wouldn't make it through this introduction. Jean has impacted me and been a part of my life since 2001, helped me with adventure therapy, being a part of AEE, traveling the world, going to Russia in the middle of winter, but that shows her commitment and the inspiration for us to really show that we as the deaf community can, disabled community can. Figure out the access. We've got somebody in a wheelchair. What do we do? That's Jean. She considers this. She influences others, and it spreads. Her network is amazing. The networking opportunities that we consider, and the legacy is truly the power of the community. So personal discovery, what does that mean? It's the whole journey experience. We focused on doing a documentary, not just on Jean, but on the journey of personal discovery in this program and how powerful and impactful this is on the world, in Haiti, in Russia, in the Philippines, in many other international locations. And you'll hear about those from her speech today. She has planted seeds that are flourishing throughout the world. Thank you, Jean. Please join me on stage.
What an honor. It's an opportunity for me to share with you things that are very important. People who have touched me, experiences, stories, poems that have touched me and I have shared with my students and with other people that I've worked with around the world. As I talk about those people, please take the time to think and to reflect to your own journey. And I want you to think about those people who have touched your life, those experiences that made and shaped you, those stories that have impacted you. Because we are not alone. We are a mosaic of many. We are all part of each other. And congratulations to the new people that are first timers here. That's awesome. As we start, I'd like to take one moment. I would like you to turn either forward or back. And I want you to meet one person that you don't know and find 3 things you have in common. Would you do that now? Can we come back, please? I think we could be here all night getting to know that new person. That's just the beginning. As I talk today, there'll be several names on the slides. I don't have time to talk about each, but I want you to know that each is cherished, and they have impacted me, and there are many that are not there. So, I can't talk about each, but their names are there. Family is the foundation of society. My dad told me that often. And we have our blood family. I'm lucky. I have a very loving family. Some people don't. But people can have love families. Again, I'm lucky because I have many love families, and my personal discovery family, a lot of them are here. AEE, when I first came, I felt at home. And it's a place that you can come and you're inspired, you get new ideas, you don't want to leave, and you want to come back. And please bring more people. I met a deaf girl for the first time from Maine, and she said, I have to go. I didn't know about all of this, but I will come back next year. Each of us has had different experiences, different people. I'm a Navy brat. I lived in different places from the time I was born until I graduated from high school. When I lived in Tennessee, my dad often gave me different experiences. And this one was at a cotton field. And I had a bag that was twice as big as me. And I went down the row and I picked cotton. And it helped me realize how hard the people who pick cotton, who pick our fruit, who pick our vegetables, who make it possible to have those in the stores, how hard they work. Many of those people lived in small houses near the fields, and there'd be 2, 3, maybe 4 families. I learned to appreciate that. When I lived in Seattle, Washington, my dad always found a home as far out from in the country as possible. I was about 12 years old, and a neighbor girl and myself picked strawberries for 2 weeks commercially. We were picked up by a bus at 5 in the morning, and we brought home at 4. I learned some things here. We had a box about that big that we had to fill. The relatives of the owners of the farm got first choice. They went down the field and they picked the big berries and put them in, and then they went on. We had to go down the same rows and pick the smaller ripe berries, and we had to pick the spoiled berries and throw them out, and then we had to have our row inspected before we could go to the next row. One day, I had about a third of a box at the end of the day. A man who was picking as a life job, who went from crop to crop, gave me all of his strawberries to fill my box. He was doing that to eat. He was doing that to buy things and pay bills. I was doing it to earn extra money. I will never forget. I lived in Japan for 2.5 years, and I was 13 to 15. People were still living in caves from World War II along the road. I got my senior life-saving certificate there. I was underage, but they gave it to me anyway. I was 15. Those were some of the experiences. Other people, I worked with the Young Scholars program at Gallaudet, and this was a program, a summer program, that brought in gifted deaf and hearing people to the program. It was both a Gallaudet program and there was a second international program. I did both. My boss, Richard Meisegauer, was awesome. He believed in the people that worked for him. He gave them their support. He fought for them. He found the money that was needed for you to do things, especially for the international travels that went to Mexico, South Africa, Romania, Japan, and India. I hope each of you has the experience of having a boss that gives you that kind of support, because too many times we're fighting for the things that we believe in. Tony Breda is a friend of mine. He's Wampanoag Indian from Martha's Vineyard in Massachusetts. And he's half Wampanoag and half Italian, if you can imagine that combination. And Tony taught me a lot about nature. My dad did also. Do things happen by chance? My dad was transferred when I graduated from high school to DC. So we lived in Maryland, we moved. And lost my thought. I was going to the University of Maryland because of that move. And at that time and that year, all of the women's varsity sports had been dropped because it was not feminine enough. And I needed activity. So the only thing that there was there for women was gymkhana. It was a show gymnastic team. And I joined. And I fell in love with gymnastics. And I learned to spot men's and women's events because we helped each other. Gymkhana was a place where people came in with no skill or a lot of skill. And so to help us get good shows, we had to help each other grow. When I was a senior in undergraduate work, I worked at a camp. And a little deaf girl came into that camp And I immediately went to the library and got a book. It's the first deaf person I had ever met. And the best I could, I was trying to explain to her what we were doing in gymnastics. Her parents called the director of the camp, and they said they appreciated my interest in their daughter, but they didn't want me to sign to her. At that time, many doctors would tell parents of deaf children that if you signed, they would never speak. Camp was over. I was living at home. I went out on a Saturday morning to go someplace. There was that little girl at my door. How she found out where I lived, I have no idea. She rode her bicycle over there. We tried to communicate with each other, then she had to go home. You all have had experiences, and sometimes you know and sometimes you don't know when you have touched someone, but know that you have. When I was in graduate school at Maryland, I had a teaching assistantship. I was teaching 4 classes, and so I could only take 10 credits. I had 3 heavy classes in science. I had 1 extra credit, and I'm shy, so I took an advanced modern dance class thinking that might help me. In that class, I had to write a report. And the teacher said to me, she said, "Jean, there is a dance group at Gallaudet University." So I went to the library at Maryland, and I found the book, and I read it, and I called the head of the PE and Recreation Department. And I talked to Dr. Wisher, and he invited me over, and I went over and visited and met some of the dancers and was amazed. And then a year later, when I finished my work, I'm trying to decide what I was going to do, he called me and offered me a job. And of the jobs that I was offered, that was the most challenging, and I accepted it. And I was there for 45 years. Chance? I don't know. See the abilities in others. It's important that you tell people when you see their abilities, you may be the only person. You may save a person's life because you believe in what they can do. A person, short, sort of stout, Dorothy Hamburg, was working in my department, and she was the director of summer recreational programs. She came up to me and she said, "Jean, I want you to design a program for new students that would help build self-esteem and leadership skills." So I developed a program in body awareness and posture and conditioning, because as your body improves, your self-esteem grows. But it was fun, but it wasn't exciting. That fall, there was an article in the Washington Post, and Dorothy had seen it. She cut it out and brought it to me, and it was about Outward Bound. And I read it, and I said, "Yes, that's it." So the two of us went to the provost, Dr. Shupman, and he agreed to support it and gave us $80,000 to build the first ropes course. That summer, we had training when it was finished. We started building in the spring of '79. That summer was the first program that we offered, and it was the beginning of personal discovery. It grew from a summers only program to a program that offered a variety of classes, of 11 different classes. A friend of mine is a physical therapist. And a friend of hers, they were both doctors, the wife and the husband. And their daughter, Ursula, was born, reached birth. They knew that was going to happen, but the doctor on duty, the night that Ursula decided to be born, was not their doctor, and he used the wrong medicine. Ursula was born severely brain damaged. The only thing she could do was turn her head. She still has to be fed, bathed, clothed. Nancy worked with Ursula, and she knew she had more in her. So one day, she brought ABCs, and she put them up on the wall. And she put a hat on with a headlight on. And to her amazement, Ursula spelled out whole words. Ursula now has top-level clearance with the U.S. government. Still has to be fed and bathed. She uses a computer with eye blink. Every person has gifts. Every person. And it's our responsibility to find out what those are and help those people share what they have. One other person I'll talk about in this list is Dr. Lena Morozova, Russian child psychologist. She is amazing. She can look and watch children, adults, all people, and analyze problems. She is loving. She works with groups, often with no pay. We've worked with a group of family with adopted children, and over in Russia, where there are adopted children, 70% go back. Lena has helped keep this group together with their children, and they've grown up. Now, we've been part of that every year. Amazing woman. Training and experiences. When I first started, the gymnastics was my foundation of taking risks and trying new things. I was clueless to outdoor adventure programming. I took every class I could, every experience I could. I took 11 different classes from Project Adventure, and I met Jim Scholl. And Jim was this phenomenal human being. And I took ABC of Adventure Programming and Advanced ABC from Jim. And I used what I learned on Islands of Healing as the foundation for the Person of Discovery program. And we approach working with our people therapeutically. AEE was my next group to meet, and as I said, it became home. On every workshop, I took information and brought it back and shared it with my staff and with my students. And it goes on. There are just many. Learning through experiences, making choices, allowing a person to fail, problem solving together. Marina Ewald is a role model. She set up the first outward bound expedition and was the only woman on that expedition. Every Person of Discovery class that I had at least one, usually 2 or 3 trips that were like expeditions, where we did canoeing, camping, caving, rock climbing, for the people to have experience and to learn they could do more than they think they can. In my classes, one of the groups I took to a fault cave in Pennsylvania. And in that cave, at one time, they had found shackles and a Bible. The cave had been used by the native people in that area to hide from their enemy, and later by the Underground Railroad people. And every time I brought a class there, there was one small room we did a lights out. And I asked my students to consider what the importance of freedom is to the individual. A cave is the only place that you can experience total darkness. And they had to imagine people going there that knew nobody that was bringing them, didn't know about caves, probably had no shoes, didn't have a helmet and a headlight, may have had a torch. This particular cave at one time went all the way under the Susquehanna River. Those slaves would wait until someone came to lead them. Freedom. Important. Willing to risk life or death. The picture with the girls that are blindfolded is in Russia. I do a lot of things to help us recognize the power of our different senses. So they were doing a puzzle blindfolded and learning to share with each other when they couldn't find where something fit. The next slide, you'll see another cave. This is a beautiful limestone cave in Virginia. You can tell I like caving. So I brought my one on different discovery class to this cave. It was a long drive. It was about 5 hours to get there. And I had a boy in my class. It was 6'4". And we got into the first room of the cave. Miss Jean, I can't do it. Yes, you can. "No, I can't." He and I stayed in that room while the two people, one that drove all the way up from North Carolina, the other one who owned the land, took the class down and back up. That next year, that man came up to me and said, "Miss Jean, can I join your caving trip this year?" I said, "Sure." He did the whole thing. Challenged by choice. Carl Sumhold is a friend of mine and a wonderful rock climber. And Carl would join my classes when we had rock climbing trips and often some of the camping trips. And one of the things, and I want you to remember this, that he taught me and he taught my students and my staff, that every hand you move and every foot you move is solving a problem. So in one climb, you may have solved 20 different problems. What a wonderful place to learn about problem solving. In Russia, we were working in St. Petersburg, and we were working with severely challenged people, from little people all the way up to adults. And it was a 3-day program, and at the end of a program, this mother came up to me and she says, "Jean, I want to thank you." And I said, "What for?" And she said, "I have hid my son from society. Now I am feeling I can bring him out and expose him to the world." This was a handsome young man, about so tall, that was mentally challenged, but had many other gifts that you just had to discover. The other, I have so many stories, but the other story that I think is impactful, we were working at the Wallenberg University in St. Petersburg. It was a 5-day training program for teachers. At the end of that program, one of my staff that was leading groups, now understand, this is deaf students leading hearing teachers. You don't hear that in Russia or any other place. That staff brought up a paper that the teacher had written to her as they were finishing. And the teacher wrote, "I made a friend." We just have to touch each other. Importance of stories. We store the information that we gather in our heads, in our brains, in story form. So putting things into a story helps us remember. So I'm going to share a story with you about an elephant. This is a circus elephant, and his name is Bozo. This is the kind of circus that went from one town to the other, and they have to set up the tents for the people to come. And Bozo would pull those poles and put them up, and the tents would be set up. He would pull the cages with the tigers and the lions, and even perform. He would go out there and he'd have pretty girls on his nose and on his neck. And you know that Bozo could do a headstand? Over time, Bozo began to start to rock back and forth. And he would stare and his eyes were red. And one day, ran up to the trainer. And the trainer went to the boss and he said, "Oh, I don't know what's happened to Bozo." So the boss said, "We'll call the veterinarian." So the veterinarian came and he checked Bozo and he couldn't find anything wrong. So the trainer continued to work with Bozo, but Bozo was still rocking back and forth and staring. And again, whoo, whoo! She's not looking at me. So the trainer said, "I can't work with him anymore." And he went to the boss and he said that. And do you know, the boss and the trainer said, "Well, we'll have to shoot Bozo." And on top of that, they decided to sell tickets. On the day that Bozo was to be shot, people came into the tent. Bozo's in the middle of the tent in a big cage, pawing. Military came in. But before he took the gun off his shoulder, a little man came in with a curly mustache. And he came up to the trainer and he said, "Can I help you?" And the trainer said, "Impossible." And the little man said, "I think I can." And he opened his briefcase and he took out a paper and he gave it to the trainer. And the audience got very quiet. And they could hear that the little man was talking. And he went up to the cage and opened it, went in. And he was talking. And he was petting Bozo. And big tears started flowing down Bozo's face. The little man walked around the cage with Bozo. He gave him a hug. And then left. He went up to the trainer and he said, "You're not going to have any trouble with Bozo now for a long, long time. You see, Bozo is from India and he only knows the Hindi language. And he has not heard that for many years. We don't know if the little man saw the hand or not, but he did not shake the hand. He walked out of the tent. It was only at that time that the trainer looked at that paper. And it's one of those papers, you know, that says, "You're not responsible if anything happens to me." You know, we do that all the time, right? It's signed. What did I spell? Rudyard Kipling. This is a true story. Communication is important. And without communication, you don't have a society. Short stories from my friend Tony. We were camping up in Western Maryland, and there were some picnic tables. Sometimes you have campsites, there's nothing like that, and other times you do. And Tony says, "What is that mushroom doing next to that table?" Then he started laughing, and he said, "The mushroom knows that humans will come in and stamp on that mushroom and spread the spores all over." Another story of Tony. We're sitting on a log, we're in the forest. The students, I forget what they were doing, but they had a project and we were talking. And Tony told me that his grandfather, who lived in Martha's Vineyard, told him that the animal for the deaf was the butterfly. And I started crying because I raise butterflies and I've had them on my head and my nose. I figured this must be what I'm supposed to do. Promises, truth, and personal values. Kurt Hahn knew himself well enough that he was able to stand up to Hitler. And he told his students, "You either stand with me or you stand with Hitler," knowing that he would be arrested and put in jail. And he was. But because he'd worked with the Prince of England, they were able to get him out and bring him to England. I developed an activity called visual words. My people are visual learners. So I had toilet paper centers and paper towel centers to make up the ABC alphabet. And usually you needed 5 sets for each group, and we made it an active learning experience. I introduced that at the BCOAE conference one year. And that next year I was at the same conference and I saw in his car these big bags. I knew exactly what they were. So I went up to the people and I said, "You're going to teach visual words." They looked at each other and they said, "No, we changed the name." I share this story because it's important, not only there, but here, where I've known it's happened, and other places where people take credit for things they didn't start. It's important that we recognize where things come from. Shavalova. She's an amazing woman in Russia. She uses the theater to teach about social issues. And she even now is using the foreign theater in Russia to do exactly the same thing. And to talk about all kinds of things, abuse, everything. She's like, blank. She's like Kurt Hahn. When given an award by the government, she didn't accept it. Stanford and Binky. They're members of AEE. They've been role models for us. They have showed us how to work with people from poverty, to work with people with different races, They are my role model. And they have made a huge difference in many people's lives. The importance of rules and safety. Kurt Hahn went out of his office because they were having a track meet at the school. And he went to check and see, he likes sports. And he went out to see how the team was doing. And he noticed the other team, the boys didn't have any shoes on. Stop! We will stop this meet immediately. And we will start over again. And our team will take their shoes off and then compete. I was lifeguarding and on the swimming team my senior year in high school. And it was the end of the summer and the swimming team was having a party. And the head lifeguard had given the team permission to jump and dive off the lifeguard stands. And I disagreed. And I told the head lifeguard that I couldn't work under those conditions. And just as I was getting ready to walk off, a little girl was on the top of the lifeguard stand, slipped, fell, hit her head on the gutter, rolled into the water, came up screaming, "I can't feel my legs." I dove in, got her. I told her brothers to bring a bench in, and we laid her on the bench, took it out of the water. The head lifeguard would not call EMS. Her parents had gone to get the cake for the party. I told her brothers we would put her in the back of my car, the back seat, and drive her to the hospital. And we did that. Her parents arrived just as I was getting ready to go with the two brothers in the car. We explained what happened. They said, "Follow them." At the hospital, which was a long distance, they came out with a board, brought her out, and that little girl was in the hospital for 3 months. And I heard, because we moved to Maryland, that she was going to be fine and that she'd be able to have children. Importance of rules and safety first, then risk-taking. Dan Greeley is a very special person. Dan connects people and groups. And in 1995, Dan brought Peace Flame to Lake Geneva and the AE conference. Dale Thomas was a spiritual leader for this group. They had a fire that had lived for 900 years. And his spirits had told him it was time to share. And Bruce Hardwick and sometimes their mind doesn't always work, and Dwayne Kennard, both fire keepers for that nation, came to Lake Geneva in the snow, pre-conference, started the fire. The grandson, or the grandson of Mahatma Gandhi, Arun, came out to that space, prayed over that fire, as many other people did. And in your gift bag, you have a coal that came from that fire. And you can either keep it, you can put it in a fire that carries the prayers of all the people, or you can bring it to other. I have brought it around the world where it felt comfortable to share. Dr. Mansukh Patel. It's interesting. His parents worked for, and Mahatma, and Mansukh lived in the home of Mahatma Gandhi. And Mansukh has walked much of the earth for peace. I have met him person to person a couple of times. And one of the things that Mansukh told me, and I share with you, never speak until your words taste like honey. Learning should be fun. Gino and Tonio I met at an AE conference, pre-conference. And then Gino gave a workshop on what you can learn from a teepee. Gino works with horses, he works with people. I have brought staff down to Window Rock to work with him. And he told me that when a horse farts in your face, that is a sort of a blessing. Because the horse is trusting you, and at that time you can start petting it. And he works with horses that have been abused. He's worked with vets with horses. He's worked with people using Navajo traditions. Creativity and simplicity. Tom Smith was tired of bringing equipment into the woods to work with his clients. So he developed what's called the raccoon circle. It's made out of webbing, you tie it together, and there's books on raccoon circle. And some of you young people haven't experienced that, so we'll have to offer a workshop next year on raccoon circle. Let's see. Michelle Cummings. Everybody knows Michelle. One time, her equipment didn't arrive before she was doing a workshop. What am I going to do? She had a hand of playing cards. She spent all night writing down what she could do with those playing cards. And she did a whole workshop. And now there's a whole book on what you can do with playing cards. I had the same thing happen to me in Russia. And I had to take the train. The equipment had not arrived. I had to do a 3-day workshop. And I took the train at night and got there. I went out in the field and found rocks and weeds, and I gathered whatever I could and did a 3-day workshop with rocks and weeds. And you role modeled for me. Tony Breda. I'd asked him to work with our young scholars, and I had a boy in a wheelchair. We went up beyond Frederick, Maryland, to a forest, and Tony and his boys had gone into the woods, and it was pretty flat and it wasn't too thick. So I brought the group to Tony, and he gave them the challenge: find examples of deer presence. Well, the kids walked all over in those woods and they were looking, and they came back. None. There's no deer here. Tony said, "Are you sure? Why are there no leaves on those trees?" That's a brow line. And all the deer have been eating the bottom leaves. Look at this tree, young tree. And it had scrapes on it. And Tony explained there are scent glands in the deer right in their head, and they rub on there to leave a scent so others could follow. And in their hose, in between, there are scent glands, so they can leave smells for others to follow or to claim territory. No deer? Took a branch and he swept away the leaves. Oh my goodness. This is a highway. It's a deer highway. There were little prints and there were big prints, and they were going this way and they were going that way. No deer, right? What you can learn in the wilderness. Importance of listening. We're almost done. My mom was a wonderful listener. People would come up and tell her things. She didn't even know them sometimes. Tom Smith was a wonderful listener. I've seen him sit at a table for 2 hours talking to one person, go teach a workshop, come back and listen for another hour. Bruce Hardwick, one of the fire keepers, would do circles, talking circles. And sometimes there'd be 60 people in that circle. And as the feather would be passed off around, Bruce would stay there and listen to every person. And it may have been 4 hours. Listening is important. Sharing yourself with others. We're taught you don't cross that line. Teachers are one-sided, you just don't share yourself with your students, but you share other things. But I disagree. I think there are times it's okay to go across that line. And to share one story, this is another friend of mine who is Cherokee. And she was with us in the camping trip, and she brought her ceremonial drum. My whole group tried that ceremonial drum. But one girl, she was on that drum 3 or 4 hours straight, drumming. You see, this girl came from Central America. She was never allowed out of the house during the day because many people believe that if you have a child that is challenged, that that's God's punishment for something you have done wrong. Her heart poured out on that drum. learn not only from our elders and from our peers, we learn from children. Some of you have read Matty Stepanek. He was a boy that had genetic form of muscular dystrophy. He never lived beyond 14. You are getting in your bag a poem for this world, and I forgot to show you the candle that's in there. This candle happened to have been burnt from a candle that has been from the flame that went to Wales. This is where you can get information about the coals. This poem is a small one because Sickar told me the other was too long. It's called Ascent, and Matty was 12 years old when he wrote it. Let's take the bouldering mistakes of the past and the roadblocks of challenges of the present and build them into stairs that support our climb into the future. Can we do that? Would you now do this quickly because I've been talking too much? Will you quickly go to the person that you met and give them a hug and then just come back and sit down? Okay, I need you. You have on your phones from the QR, please just check, make sure that you have a fire, a candle. Okay, now turn it off. I'm going to share a story. This happened in Russia. And we were at a winter camp and they asked us to do the closing. There were about 600 people. And I happened to have been sharing the peace flame and had brought a lot of tea candles. So I had everybody in the audience make a big circle around the auditorium. And then I lit, I'm going to tell this first and then we'll do it. Okay. Then I lit my candle that had in it the prayers from Wales, from the original fire. And we lit the candles and passed it on. So, please light your candles. And what I said to the group was this. Please take a moment, close your eyes, and think what you as an individual needs to have peace. I want you to do the same. Now, take a moment to think of what your community needs to have peace. And last, think about what the world needs to have peace. On the count of 3, I would like you to blow out your candle. 1 minute, 2, 3. When we did that in Russia, there was, for many people, because all of the candles continued to glow, an orange glow, all the way around. And it was like a message: you cannot